Adolf Hitler, a legacy recognized worldwide as the epitome of evil. Whether he be judged correctly or not, no one can doubt the heinous acts committed by Hitler and his entourage, the Nazi Party. The aspects surrounding Adolf Hitler, commonly unrecognized, is his genius for leadership. His ability to rise to immense power and persuade an entire country to accept his immoral beliefs is uncanny. His deception shall not be forgotten, though or future generations run the risk of committing similar acts against civil humanity.
Und niemals erlahmen, und niemals ermüden, und niemals verzagen, und niemals
Adolf Hitler was born on April 20th, 1889, Easter Sunday of all days, in the Austrian village of Braunau am Inn, a town located just outside of the border of German Bavaria. His birth date is ironic, considering Hitler ultimately resembled anything but a Christ-like figure in the eyes of much of mankind. What fueled Hitler's desires, though? How did he become the individual known as Hitler? And how was he able to persuade an entire country? The roots behind his actions begin with his childhood. Hitler was no stranger to tragedy as a child, facing the death of 4 siblings, including a close brother, Edmund, who died at the age of 6. At the age of 14, Adolf lost his father, Alois. He wouldn't face his most damaging tragedy until the age of 18, the death of his beloved mother. Hitler adored his mother as a child because she provided a sense of security and love unlike anyone else in his life. Many claim that the only person Adolf ever truly loved was his mother. The doctor who signed Hitler's mother's death certificate noted that he had never seen anyone so overcome with grief as Adolf Hitler at the loss of his mother. While tragedy ensued throughout his childhood, he encountered several other people and writings that influenced his rule as the leader of Germany. As a young child, Hitler discovered a picture book in his father's book collection depicting the war of 1870 to 1871 between the Germans and the French. Hitler became obsessed with the book, even quoting in Mein Kampf, "It was not long before the great historic struggle had become my greatest spiritual experience. From then on, I became more and more enthusiastic about everything that was in any way connected with war, or for that matter, soldiering." A teacher at school, Dr. Leopold Potsch, fueled his interest by speaking highly of glory tales and German figures such as Otto von Bismarck and Frederick the Great. Despite being of Austrian origin, Hitler's German nationalism quickly grew. It continued to grow as he borrowed numerous amounts of German history and Nordic mythology books from the library. One of Hitler's greatest motivations in his childhood was the opera Rienzi by Richard Wagner, which involved mythical tales of struggle against hated enemies. August Kubizek, Hitler's friend during childhood, noted that Adolf seemed to become possessed after the opera. Hitler led Kubizek atop a steep hill and spoke in a strange voice about a magnificent mission in which he would lead his people to freedom. Instead, he would lead them to oppression. In his late teenage years, as his mother grew sick from breast cancer, Hitler discovered a desire for art. His interest led him to apply to the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts, but he flunked the exam because he was unable to paint the human form. It's ironic, considering Hitler ended up being responsible for millions of human deaths. Adolf Hitler's rise to power in the state of Germany was the effect of a war-ravaged country that sorely desired change. Germany's loss in World War I left the country in turmoil, facing economic disaster. Unemployment reached 6 million in 1932, banks were put under government control, and bankruptcies spread like a wildfire.
They have to pay reparations to France and to all the offended parties at the end of World War I. And what happens with everything, the U.S. is helping float loans to pay Germany so Germany can pay off their reparations. Well, 1930s, U.S. hits Great Depression. They don't have the money to invest in Germany anymore. So when they stop investing in Germany, Germany goes essentially bankrupt. Germany's money's worthless. The hyperinflation hits. People are sometimes collecting multiple paychecks in a single day so that they can go home and buy groceries. There's a joke, a saying in Germany, it's you take your money to the grocery store in your shopping cart and you come home with your groceries in your wallet. That's how bad things get.
The Treaty of Versailles was the final nail in the coffin for Germany. it was forced to pay 226 billion marks, roughly $27 billion, in war reparations. This situation created an ideal matrix for a persuasive leader like Adolf Hitler to swoop in for power. Hitler went on the attack in 1923 after World War I. He increased the Nazi Party member group from 3,000 to 15,000 and created the SA, a private militia used to intimidate opponents. Hitler, looking back at his monastery where he schooled as a child, chose the swastika, an ancient symbol used in Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism that represented good luck in the Western world, as a symbol for the Nazi Party. He would ultimately gain the position as Chancellor in January of 1933 after the Nazis gained 37% of the vote in the Reichstag, more than any other party, in the elections during July of 1932. General von Hindenburg was president at the time and felt wary of Hitler, but he appointed Hitler Chancellor after Adolf agreed to split 1/3 of the Reichstag with the Social Democrats and the Center Party. Utilizing his SA and using the other parties as scapegoats for social conflicts, such as the Reichstag fire, Hitler gained full control as the heir to Hindenburg.
Hitler's able to use them to kind of gain ground. He uses them to intimidate people, they attack people, they bully people, and they do so numerous times in trying to gain a foothold for Hitler.
In July of 1934, Hindenburg passed away and Hitler took control as president and chancellor to become Der Führer. Later in 1934, Hitler destroyed the Weimar Constitution with the help of a Nazi-driven Reichstag and declared Germany a dictatorship. After World War I, Adolf Hitler's German nationalism grew exponentially. Embarrassed by the humiliation of the war and its repercussions, Hitler prided himself on renewing the German state into a world powerhouse. But how was Adolf Hitler able to persuade an entire country, men, women, and children, to follow his immoral and unethical plan to gain this power? Propaganda. Hitler was a master in the usage of propaganda. Of his oratory, Dr. Joseph Goebbels claimed, "The magic of his voice reaches men's secret feelings." Hitler's main reason for success lie in the belief system of philosopher Sigmund Freud. Attack the people as a group, not individually. On the characteristics of group thought, Freud said groups contain weakness of intellectual ability, lack of emotional restraint, incapacity for moderation and delay, and the inclination to exceed every limit in the expression of emotion. Following Freud's teachings, the Nazi Party treated the people of Germany as one. Individuals have the ability to think for themselves. Groups are easily persuaded. In order to achieve this group thought sensation, Hitler would hold festivals, mass meetings, parades, and semi-religious rituals to invite group participation. In regards to his strategy, Hitler stated, "The receptivity of the great masses is very limited. Their intelligence is small, but their power of forgetting is enormous." In addition to persuading through group thought, Adolf Hitler also utilized trigger words and a portrayal of strength to brainwash the Germans. Freud taught that a crowd seeks strength and violence out of its leaders, and it wants to be ruled and oppressed, and to fear its master. Adolf Hitler would yell, scream, and wave his hands to convey a sense of dominance over the crowd. He would also paint a mental picture in the minds of his followers by using specific words to rouse them. In the context of Jews or Marxists, he would use words such as pacifist, with a connotation of weakness. In the context of Germany, he would use blood, sword, or eagle to represent strength. Hitler's final persuasion tactic was the use of the either-or fallacy, suggesting his unethical beliefs were the only option to ensure that Germany would remain in power. Once in power, Adolf Hitler instigated World War II in hopes of renewing the Aryan race's power. His plan ultimately failed as the Axis powers disintegrated and Germany's Reichstag was overtaken by the Allies. On April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler committed suicide in a bunker located under his headquarters in Berlin. The hopes of a 1,000-year Reich were lost, as one of history's most influential leaders had been destroyed. Hitler's rise to power and stint as the leader of Germany led to a myriad of issues that tore apart Europe and led to nearly 50 million casualties. His impact and legacy will never be forgotten as long as mankind exists. Rightfully so, because mankind must vividly remember the legacy of Adolf Hitler to ensure nothing of such evil magnitude will exist again.